India are 39 for 1 at stumps on day 4 of this first test at the Chepauk. The numbers and variables and equations are pretty straightforward. England need 9 wickets. On day 5, India either need to bat out 90 overs or score 381 runs. Now, who's to put any result beyond them, as recent events have taught us wisely? So Sanjay Manjrekar and Ian Bell have a lot to chat about on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G. I'll first go to Ian Bell to try and settle this storm that's been created on social media on England's approach after tea, where they batted 19 and a half overs, Belly, scored 59 runs, batted significant time. What did you make of all that?
Little bit bizarre, to be honest with you. I mean, they will be kicking themselves tomorrow night if they don't go on and win this game. I still believe they've got enough to go on and win it, but there's certainly growing frustration from this side. England supporters desperate to see the game move forward. I think England have obviously had a plan. They've got a number in their head of when they want the second new ball tomorrow, towards the end of the day, when that's going to be, a hard ball tomorrow morning. But it was a little bit frustrating. All the hard work that England seemed to have done and played so well. It felt like we just sort of allowed India to, and I would imagine India was so happy for time just to be ticking away. Again, there was no real urgency tonight with the ball. We weren't hustling round overs and fielders with lots of energy. So a little bit frustrated, I think, from an English point of view of how we've played so well, but not really, pushed it home tonight. And it would have been so much better with Josh Buttler, playing his way with one of the best ball strikers in the world and maybe declaring 8 down rather than we sort of limped off the field, let Ashwin get 6 for a bit of a frustrating way to finish from an English point of view.
Now, it's the sort of situation where if they win with 15 overs to spare tomorrow, Sanjay, you think, England knew what they were doing. So will the result vindicate this decision, or are you with Ian Bell on this, that it was a bit inexplicable, their tactics after tea?
Yeah, largely agree with Ian as to his opinion, what happened there. But I'll try and get inside the head of the England team management and the think tank. They've looked at this pitch and they found this to be a curious pitch. This is not your typical Indian rank turner. Ian wasn't there earlier when we actually named this pitch as a flat turner. And that's one of the reasons why England may have felt obliged to bat a little longer, shows their little bit of maybe insecurity because India is playing at home and they've off late, done some wonderful things chasing. Just a little wary of that, giving themselves a little more cushion for the 2 possible results. If they can't win it, let's at least try and draw it. And that's where the time element comes. So yes, you would want England to be positive and only think about winning this. But the pitch has just thrown a bit of a spanner in the wheel for them.
What do you make of Sanjay's comments on that, Belly, that this surface is not breaking up as much as perhaps England would have expected for a day 4, day 5 bowling to India in the 4th innings? Therefore, the insecurity of not knowing how much is enough and therefore just keep betting.
Yeah, I agree with those comments. And I know there's a lot of talk about, India chasing 12 years ago in 2008, where Virender Sehwag played incredibly like this evening. And then Sachin Tendulkar was an absolute masterclass of 100. But that's a long, long time ago, different players. I hope England weren't thinking along those lines. But I also do think that it probably shows a little bit that necessarily the confidence in Bess and Leach isn't 100% at the moment. And as Sanjay said there, maybe just a little bit more time out of the game. Make sure that the draw is an option. And certainly watching our 2 spinners, they're not at that highest level yet. They're still at the start of their careers. And maybe that confidence wasn't there just to believe, let's just go out and try and win the game. So I think there's a bit of that in there as well. And I just hope from an English point of view, we've played so well coming into this series against a very, very good India side who are top of the world, full of confidence. We've had a great opportunity to win a game. I just hope we don't let this slip that by. But again, it might look brilliant tomorrow if we go out and win. Fantastic. All the decisions were right. But there'll be a little bit of pressure, I would have thought, looking back on these last couple of hours in the evening. If we don't get over the line and then we lose the toss in the next test match and then we're under a lot of pressure.
Yes, Sanjay?
Yeah, fair comments. Nothing more to add on that.
Okay. All right. I thought you were willing to jump in on that. I find that interesting, though, just whether they have that sort of confidence in Leach and Bess, the spinners. Now, Belly says that's the start of their career. You're not quite sure. And I don't know how much of this also has to do with the fact that They did bowl poorly on the fourth morning. Runs came easily for India, even their lower middle order. We'll come back to you, Belly. And just in terms of the reputation that this Indian team have garnered, and I spoke to Sanjay about this at tea, does that already start playing into the mind of the captain, the kind of batsman India have? Rohit Sharma, if he takes off, Kohli is there, Pant with what he can do, that all of a sudden, even 4.5, if as long as things aren't extremely hard to bat on, is gettable. Does that sort of impression already start being generated into opposing captains against the type of players that India has?
Maybe, and that's probably why they've batted on a little bit longer. I think sometimes you have to be a little bit willing to lose the game to win a game as well. I think England were in that position. It's not like that Test match 12 years ago where I think we got 380, 370 first innings. England were dominating this game for 3 days. And as I said, from an India point of view, I just think they were happy. The longer this England innings went on, the happier they were. I think, there's definitely no doubt this India batting lineup, they're not going to fail necessarily like they did first innings, or that certainly those players as world-class players, they don't do that too often. So, there'll be no doubt there was, the respect for this Indian side will be huge in that dressing room, but they had to believe from this position. Again, I mean, if India knock off 400 plus, then you shake their hands and say, well done. It just believed that maybe it was a little bit negative, and you've really got to go for the win in this position because, again, the next Test match, we might be in a very, very different position.
Sure, it is England's advantage to try and...
Ian has made the right point. I just want to, again, try and get into the brains of, the coach and the captain as to why England have been a little conservative. One is something that we talked at lunchtime as well, Ronak, that they've got 4 bowlers and Ben Stokes is an option. But they don't have 3 seamers who are willing to bowl long spells and bowl their hearts out. You've seen the way Joe Root has handled the 3 seamers. Ben Stokes has hardly bowled at all. So when he's looking at his bowling attack, he's looking at Jimmy Anderson, can't over bowl him, not his kind of pitch. Jofra Archer, great wicket-taking option, but he's not bowling his heart out. I'd love him to bowl a 3 or 4 over spell, bowling at 140 plus. But he also somewhere feels obliged to be bowling more for England. The 2 spinners, as Ian Bell mentioned, are slightly inexperienced, but having said all that, that must be not giving him the kind of confidence that you expect. But you saw Leach in the second innings getting the hang of things. These bowlers will learn as they bowl on a pitch like this. They're bowling a lot quicker. The ball that he bowled to Rohit Sharma was 90 kilometers plus. The first time he's bowled at that speed. So Best also learns quickly on this pitch. You don't need too much of artistry in the air. All you need is speed in the air, and thereby you get speed off the pitch with a turn. So if they do all that, you might just surprise India. And I also want to tell you, which was discussed at lunch. Now, India looks a great batting unit. They had one of the historic chases ever in Indian cricket in the last test that they played in Australia. It's also a team that was all out 36 on that particular trip. So, it's just set up nicely for the final day.
Yeah, we just don't like to predict things now because invariably these cricketers make us look silly. So we'll just let this play out. But I'll put this to rest before that, and then I'll come to the Rohit Sharma wicket. Let's put both of you in Joe Root's position. You know all the variables. You've discussed it at length now. What would you have done? Belly, you can go first. Would you have declared earlier at, say, 400 and then declare?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's very easy sat here in England trying to make those decisions. I agree. At the end of the day, it is a big decision. I think the way England have played, like I said, I don't think we haven't. I do believe England have dominated the first 3 Test matches, and we've sort of today. I thought India started off brilliantly with the bat, which is nearly they're just creeping themselves back into this game. I just think with the way that the guys have played so well, they deserve the opportunity or the biggest opportunity they can to win the game. And as I said, sometimes you've got to be brave enough to say, look, if India knock off 400 plus on the last day, then fair play. We've seen something pretty special. But I just hope that all the good work that hasn't gone in so far, India get 8 down, 9 down at the end of tomorrow, I think would just be because we've been a little bit too cautious. So I would have liked to have thought I would have probably declared a little bit earlier in a positive manner and take that momentum into our bowling. As Sanjay said, we looked a little bit flat there. I thought there was some nice easy leads for Rohit Sharma early from Jofra. He wanted him to run in, high pace, nice and aggressive. And we've sort of just taken that bit of the batting into the fielding.
Yeah, all right. Sanjay, you'd go with that? Or at tea time, you said at the lead being at 360, that 400 would be good. So that means another 8 or 10 overs of getting those 40 runs and then put India in?
Absolutely. And then you have to keep your life simple by saying that if India get that 400 runs, well done, congratulations. We did everything that we could have done right. And the declaration also sends a strong message to the opposition that, we want to win this game. Because if Virat Kohli and his boys get a sense that England is slightly defensive, because if they get that feeling, Virat Kohli is that kind of a captain who likes to dominate. He wants to be calling the shots. If he gets the impression that the opposition captain is slightly worried about losing, India is going to start dominating, and that will start to play a part as well. So the 400-run declaration would have done two things. One, given them more time. If it's their day, they would have more time to win the test match, and also sent a message to Virat Kohli that, we played so well until now. We have outplayed you in the batting department. Our spinners haven't bowled too badly, and we are going to try and win this match. And Ian Bell is so right that going forward, who knows with the toss? If you remember the last time they were here in India, they drew the first test match in Rajkot and lost all the other test matches in that series. So once you've got the advantage, you've got to think, this is an opportunity that they've got to grab.
All right. Well, if Jack Leach has the day of his life and ends up getting a few more like he did to Rohit Sharma, then it's a different conversation. Let's talk about that wicket of Rohit Sharma and get both your thoughts into it. Sanjay's already mentioned the pace and what the bowler has done there. Can the batsman do anything different there, or does he just have to tip his hat off to getting a beauty? Belly?
It's a good ball, isn't it? And I think Sanjay's so right. It's the pace, isn't it? I think we've seen through this test match, anyone that's willing to get that ball down there a little bit quicker than normal. I'd imagine, again, Jadeja would have been a handful on this pitch. Again, the pacey bowls. And I think that if I'm Jack Leach now, I'm thinking, how would he go about bowling and getting 5 wickets or the 10 wickets tomorrow? And it is firing it into middle stump, middle and off, a good pace, seeing one turn like that. And then if the occasional ones go straight on with a bit of natural variation and as many in that area as possible, asking as much questions. But that's great that Jack Leach has reacted quite well. And the more he bowls at the right-handers, the better. As soon as the left-handers are out, I'm whipping him out of the attack. I'm putting my 2 off-spinners, even Joe Root maybe, again, firing it in there as quick as I can, getting the ball turning away from the bat. But yeah, great signs, which is more of the same tomorrow.
There's a tweet from Kevin Peterson on that wicket in Wells from a teammate, Sanjay, saying Rohit should have been back at that one.
Playing left-arm spin, I'm not sure I'm listening to Kevin on that one.
Sanjay?
If you remember, Monty Panesar, I think, getting maybe Tendulkar out like that, somewhat similar. You can see what happened there. I don't think it was misjudgment of leg. He couldn't have been back to that one. The thing that happened there, that it was very quick, it was flat, and it was the most that he had pitched on middle and leg in that particular over. Until he was getting balls on off stump and middle and off and turning away. So the moment as a batsman you see that angle and the ball pitching on leg stump almost, you think it's not going to turn as much because it has to go against the angle, and it was quick as well, as we mentioned, 90 plus. So Rohit Sharma didn't play for the big spin. He played for marginal spin and was done. And so it was more, again, great bowling like it was in the first innings. People might think I'm being kind to Rohit Sharma, but that was a terrific ball in the first innings as well from Jofra Archer.
All right. Well, let's get all of you involved as we tend to on our Stumps show. It's time to take some questions from our viewers. Let's hit it up with hashtag AskMatchday. All right. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, start putting your questions and comments through to Sanjay and Ian. I'll take as many as I can. Make sure you put the hashtag in. And we'll start off with some from Twitter, though, that have come in. Let's start with Abhijato Sen Sharma. Should the deteriorating pitch have prompted India to bowl Washington Sundar more today? And as an aside, does Mr. Bell think Pope's cover drive is truly akin to his? I'll start with Sanjay taking the first bit and go to Ian for the second one. So should Washington Sundar have bowled more today? I don't think he bowled up to 40 or 45 overs or somewhere that was the end of that inning, Sanjay.
Yeah, we talked at lunch and we said in the second innings, it's a great opportunity to use Washington Sundar because he's the quickest of the 3 Indian spinners. So he should have bowled more. And his life would have been simpler had he been told to just bowl outside the off stump and quick and, hit a certain area. So yes, he could have been bowled a little more. I can understand Shahbaz Nadeem getting a few overs, but he's been a little disappointing. So it was a great opportunity to test out Washington Sundar. And yes, Ollie Pope actually looks a lot like Ian Bell when you see the close-up of him. Batting style, not so much.
All right, Belly, take that second bit.
Yeah, well, there's been a bit of comparison, as Sanjay said. I don't think all of the stuff that we do is exactly the same. But yeah, I agree. Probably in stature and helmet on and everything like that. Everything looks very similar. But look, he's a fine young player, somebody that back home in particular has done well domestically, averages over 50. Hopefully over time we're going to see him develop into a very fine player. I thought the second innings actually has been a little bit more fluent than the first innings. He's been out a long time with a shoulder injury. Didn't play in Sri Lanka. We started to see those shots coming, but he's a young lad with huge potential and a lot of talent.
All right, let's take our next question. That's coming again from Twitter, and I'm going to take some from our YouTube and Facebook streams in just a moment as well. There does seem to be quite a bit on Rohit Sharma, who has now had a disappointing start to this series. Should Mayank Agarwal be given a chance in place of Rohit, asks Shivam Jaiswal. There's a similar sort of sentiment echoed by Shalini Balagopal watching on our YouTube live, asking if Rohit's days as a test opener are numbered. So let's check with Sanjay Manjrekar. Is it jumping after just one bad test, or is there merit in these questions? Sanjay?
We are living in a day and age where there is more rejection than selection. And I'm completely sold on Jadeja's theory that the selectors have to be selectors and they back a player. They are committed to a certain player, give him a long rope. And that's why Mayank Agarwal was a bit unfortunate to have missed out in that last test. But, Rohit Sharma is at a stage where you have to do more than just, contribute to show that he's adding value to this team. Before the series began, I thought Rohit Sharma had now become the batsman who was about overseas and home cricket, because his overseas record hasn't shown any great improvement. The last trip to Australia was a great opportunity for him to make amends with that kind of disparity. A couple of failures here, not doing him a world of good, but Mayank Agarwal to replace Rohit Sharma, not yet.
All right. Similar question from Nitish Kumar. So I hope that answers all of you on the Rohit Sharma issue from Sanjay Manjrekar. Let's take another question and we'll stick to our Twitter questions. Now, this is from Ayush. When Jadeja comes back and the match is in India, do you see Washington Sundar playing as a third spinner as he can contribute with bat as well? And if that's the case, what happens to Kuldeep Yadav? All right, Sanjay, you can stick to this one as well.
See, Kuldeep Yadav, we joked about it, isn't it, on our WhatsApp group that a few months back, Ravi Shastri had called him the first choice overseas spinner. And increasingly now he's becoming fourth and fifth and sixth choice spinner. On a typical rank turner like we saw in, the second test match is going to be in Chennai as well. It's not going to be vastly different. So Kuldeep Yadav is not tailor-made for these kind of pitches. As we've been mentioning, you need quick, accurate bowlers. So Jadeja will always be that second spinner along with Ashwin. Unless it's a rank turner, then you get Washington Sundar in, because you need those kind of bowlers. So Kuldeep Yadav, I'm afraid we'll have to wait for some good pitches to get a look in as a spinner.
All right, let's get a quick comment on Ian Bell on this. From what you've seen of Washington Sundar, is he got in him to command a place in this team as a bowler first and then perhaps with his batting, Belly?
100%. I mean, firstly, I loved his batting this morning. I thought that was fantastic. And the more he develops, he's a young player, he's a young modern day cricketer, isn't he? Strikes the ball beautifully, bowls nice pace, gets bounce. So there's no doubt he's worth sticking with, isn't he? There's no doubt Jadeja at the moment, I think, would be a massive plus having him in the side. And obviously it's a big miss. But over time, I'd like to think that he will develop. It'd just be fascinating what the selection will be for the next game. Whether, again, Yadav comes back in just as another option, as something different, rather than, again, just having the orthodox finger spinner left armer, and maybe ask another question of the England batting lineup. But yes, from what I've seen so far, brilliant what happened in Australia and in Brisbane. I thought that was outstanding. Young cricketers away from home. He's only going to get better through time. And actually, you only get better by playing in Test match cricket. The more you play, I think young players, if they're anything about them, they will grow and learn. And I think Rashid Pant's the same thing. The more he plays, the better he'll get.
Right. There are a lot of questions on Washington Sundar, the batsman, that are actually pouring in now. There were even some suggesting on Twitter that should he be opening and maybe put Rohit down, or Washington Sundar coming higher up to bat. Now, Sanjay, we discussed this as well. As good as he's looked with the bat in both these test matches, this one and the one in Brisbane, do you see Washington Sundar getting any higher up the order?
Opening, maybe not. At this rate, if you keep looking down the Twitter timeline, you might see somebody suggesting him to be the next captain of India if India loses this test match. So sometimes, we tend to get a little carried away. For the moment, you can say that Washington Sundar is just incredibly talented cricketer that we are suddenly seeing on the test match stage. He's been there on the IPL stage and he's played a bit of white ball create. But at the moment, you just got to marvel at the kind of ability this guy has, because he's not just your, late order batsman who's primarily a spinner. There's more to his batting than just being a support batsman to his spin, and as an off spin as well. Clearly not a part-time off spinner. So a bundle of talent.
If England are to win, who do you see playing a bigger role tomorrow, Bess or Leach? Really?
Well, I think both are going to have to play their part at some point. I think Bess at the moment seems to be a bit of a golden arm for England. I think he's going to have to get some wickets. A beautiful delivery to get Kohli. So again, more of the same. Like I said, we had the rub of the green first innings. We had I think Rahane was caught with a full toss and a diving catch. We had Pujara caught short leg off short leg. So yeah, they're both going to have to play their part. Leach to the right-handers, I think, has to come to the party tomorrow, like we saw with that dismissal of Rohit Sharma. I think if Leach has a good day tomorrow, I think England will win this Test match.
All right, let's take one more from Sarvesh Joshi. And we just heard Ishan Sharma's, I think, end of day comments, and in light of that, that pretty much is a good question to take towards the end of this and wrap it up. Ishant said India are going to look to chase down this remaining 381. We don't expect anything else, but we almost have confirmation now from the Indian dressing room. Do you think it's a good decision to go for the win instead of a draw? And that could just take us to final comments for tomorrow. Sanjay?
Not surprised to hear that kind of chatter coming from the Indian dressing room. If things go well in the first session, this is the team that I back to, think on those lines. I've mentioned this before. Viv Richards was the same, always felt at any stage of the game that he could win the game for his team and his team could win. And Virat Kohli is the same. So that's why they connected so well in the West Indies. So first good session or a first hour goes India's way. India will be certainly thinking on those lines because the captain will be completely committed to that cause.
If they are going to go for the win and try and chase this is still 380 runs in 90 overs. So it's over 4 and over. You think that also gives England their best chance of actually getting the wickets, that India won't look to just play things out, Belly?
100%. Well, firstly, I think anyway, whether that's absolute how they generally feel in the dressing room or it's just for England, I think it's a great positive message to send to England, because at the end of today, England come off a little bit negative and India are actually striding forward for the rest of the series. So I think fascinating. But the thing for me, having been in those positions where you're looking to bat, the worst thing you can do is just try and survive a day of 90 overs of batting and be negative. So the more you're looking to score runs, your footwork's better, your judge of length is better, the intent is better. So I think it's the right message to be sending. Look, if India don't get to tea and it doesn't look like they've got a chance, then obviously they'll probably shut up shop. But I think it's a great message to send to the dressing room because, again, surviving and being slightly negative would be the worst possible way to go into tomorrow.
All right. Well, this should make for a fascinating final day's play at the Chepauk. Who's to say that England, who've dominated so much of this Test match, are actually still going to just get the job done? They are favourites going into day 5, and we'll have Ian Bell and Sanjay Manjrekar right through the course of it. So, Belly, don't forget to put your alarm right for tomorrow. You're going to be with us at 3 a.m. GMT while India and England take lunch here in India. So, do join us on day 5. Big thank you to Ian Bell as well as Sanjay Manjrekar, who will be with us for the culmination of what's been a terrific Test match, different kind of Test match from what we saw in Australia. England with their noses in front, they need 9 wickets. India need another 381. So it should make for some terrific chit-chat on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G. See you tomorrow.